Hi, I'm Lindsay McCracken. I'm narrating my EDL 852 Module 8B over Internet use violations. Basically, with the problem identification and analysis, I felt like what I needed to know fit into three categories. So with the school and community, Roosevelt High School is an affluent area of a large city. Parents are professionals such as doctors, lawyers, and investment brokers. And students always seem to have the latest in everything, whether fashion or technology. And then Roosevelt High School has a reputation as one of the most prestigious schools in their state. For the administrator information, Dr. Stephen Forbes has been there for 9 years. He's an established principal, and he's been recognized as Principal of the Year by the State Secondary Principals Association 2 years ago. So there seems to be a lot for him to maintain in terms of reputation. He is well respected by the parents of the community, and he remains focused on kind of maintaining the reputation of their school. And he's very proud of RHS. He has discussed methods with Ms. Walker to reduce stress for students and to increase positive interactions in her class. And then for teacher information, she was hired 1 year ago to teach specialized science courses, so she's in her second year. She's had her undergraduate degree, her master's degree, and 1 year of postgraduate school, which makes her a little older than most beginning teachers, but probably also a little knowledgeable than others in certain content issues. And that she's intent on establishing a structured, rigorous classroom. And the demands of her science coursework, plus her serious approach to instruction, equate to high levels of stress for students. Specific case information. Dr. Forbes has received many phone calls about Ms. Walker's stringent expectations. There's a lot of competition in their school to be the valedictorian or the salutatorian, and many students in her class are competing for this. And so that's where some of the parent complaints and student complaints are coming from, because they might be experiencing their first low grade in high school because of her class and the workload. She has not been able to successfully implement Dr. Forbes' suggestions about reducing student stress and increasing positive student interactions, and parents and students continue to complain about the class workload and the poor instruction. In her second year at Roosevelt, over Veterans Day weekend, she returned home from her parents' house 3 hours away and checked her email. She found a link to a website that had suggested comments about the personal life and critical comments about the rigor of her classes, and there were vulgar statements on the site. In addition, the final comment on the site was, "Who wants Ms. Walker to disappear?" So immediately she internalized, was extremely upset, and she called Dr. Forbes to report it, and she really felt like it was a threat to her safety immediately. I felt like he was nonchalant with his response. He asked her who might be unhappy with her, so it almost seemed like he was inquiring about not necessarily how she was doing, but I don't know, a different aspect of the situation. And she did accuse one student of likely creating it. He assured her that it was most likely a prank and they would deal with it the next day, including speaking to the student she named. And he said that if it was necessary, they would get district IT involved. She felt so unsafe that she told him she was making the 3-hour drive back to her parents' house to be there for the night. From there, I kind of looked at what I needed to know. So anytime a parent or student complains, the principal has to look into reasons for the complaint. So my first question is, what are the reasons for the concerns and complaints? Is it an issue with grading, or is it a teacher's goal to sabotage students? Is the work being assessed in a standards-based manner, or are points being taken off for non-standards related concerns? Is it possible that the concern lies with the kind of the upper level course just being more challenging than a regular course? And then are there other rigorous or specialty courses in the school? If so, how students are performing in those courses? And then are the student and parent concerns justified, or are they just being challenged for the first time? And then I also wanted to know how much time Dr. Forbes has spent observing in Ms. Walker's room. Dr. Forbes works hard to recommend only the most highly qualified candidates for employment at RHS, so he must have felt like Ms. Walker fit that. So I wondered what he's done to support her in her beginning years of teaching. Does she have an appropriate mentor? The case study states that he received numerous calls about her stringent expectations, so I'm wondering how he responded to parents. What is his philosophy on students being challenged and receiving a lower grade versus students remaining in non-specialized courses and getting an A? The case study also states that Dr. Forbes discussed techniques with Ms. Walker to improve student relationships as well as to reduce student stress. So were they just suggestions? Did you put on an action and improvement plan? I would want to know more about that. And then also, what conversations are they having? So kind of, are they talking about her teaching? Are they talking about what students are learning? Are they talking about whether her lessons are standard-based, or where are they at with that? What has been documented concerning Ms. Walker's teaching? What's the school's policy on putting a teacher on an improvement plan? Why didn't he take the threat or the website more seriously? And then what did he do when he hung up the phone after speaking to Ms. Walker? Ms. Walker was hired to teach specialized science courses after completing her undergraduate, master's, and 1 year of postgraduate work. So I kind of want to know more about her philosophies on teaching. Dr. Forbes prides himself on hiring the most highly qualified teachers. So are all of her degrees in teaching, or are some science specific? Have parents been in direct contact with Ms. Walker? And has she made attempts to communicate home in a positive way? What is her grading policy? She was hired to teach rigorous classes at a prestigious high school, so is she scaffolding and providing supports, or is she just teaching at that higher level that maybe isn't meant for high school students? Did she try to implement the suggestions Dr. Forbes suggested? Is she struggling to achieve a work-life balance? Does she do what is best for students every day? And then does she treat students fairly with dignity and respect? What I want to know about this specific website issue is who developed it, what specifically does it say. In the case study, a question is posed about her disappearing. So Ms. Walker tells Dr. Forbes they threatened to kill her, so I want to know what it actually says. Did the same person develop the website that sent the email? So is there one person involved or multiple? What are the procedures in place within their school district for these situations? What is outlined in their district AUP? In what capacity will IT personnel get involved? And then, has anything like this happened before? Are there any precedents set for this type of situation? So I felt like the problem here was multifaceted, and it starts with how she's not developing relationships, and it ends up with this website threat. So there may be a discrepancy between high school science course expectations and the course load she is teaching. She may or may not be providing enough scaffolding and support. Students are experiencing high levels of stress because of her class and expectations. A website was created with content that was offensive and threatening to her. Dr. Forbes does not seem overly supportive of Ms. Walker, and he's fielded many parent complaints, but in the case study it says he merely discussed techniques with her to reduce stress. I feel like that's a problem, like just to throw something out there to her. And then instead of responding with concern about the email on the website, he seems to disregard her concern. He's not overly supportive in this situation. So, plan of action. Getting to the bottom of this, we want to make sure that the academic success and personal well-being of every student is being promoted by adhering to ethical principles and professional norms. So, step 1 for me, determine who created the website and resolve the website aspect of the issue to ensure her immediate safety. Determine the validity of the concerns and complaints posed about Ms. Walker's teaching style, and then support her in her teaching and learning endeavors. So first I would want to determine who created it and resolve this issue to ensure her safety. So number 1, don't commit a suicide. As a principal, you don't judge the credibility of a threat the way Dr. Forbes did. And follow district AUP protocol and investigate the situation. Get district IT and the authorities involved, and then looking at the actual content of the website would help me best kind of determine who to get in contact with. But I would probably contact both. And then finally work with her immediately to make sure she feels safe, and then also after to make sure she gets the appropriate help dealing with this, because it was clear in the situation that she was threatened. So as an administrator, I want her to feel safe. Step 2, determine the validity of the concerns and complaints posed about her teaching style. So once she feels safe and that issue's been handled, start looking at her teaching and learning if that wasn't done already. Schedule regular observations, do walkthroughs, talk to parents and students from a variety of classes and not just the ones complaining. And then talk to Ms. Walker and see what she thinks about it. Step 3, support Ms. Walker in her teaching and learning endeavors. So assign her a mentor if she doesn't have one already. Instead of suggesting techniques, I'd sit down and spell out specific behaviors that she needs to increase. I would address any academic as well as behavioral concerns that I saw, and if necessary, put her on an improvement plan so that she understands the importance of making those changes. And then I would finally meet with her once a week to discuss the issues she's having, steps she's taking to address them, and improvements she's seeing or not seeing in her students. So, resolving the issue will promote the success of all students. First, I would want to do the website issue because, again, she needs to feel safe and supported. Ms. Walker feels threatened. She feels like Dr. Forbes is not supportive of her. And so it's important to establish and sustain that positive work climate for teachers so that she can feel safe and trusted and valued. That'll help her buy in more to school and to my mission. 2, after she feels safe in her school community, it will be necessary to determine the validity of the complaints and concerns made by students and parents. She was hired to teach specialty science courses, which implies a higher level of coursework. It's stated in the case that he's receiving numerous phone calls, so I would want to make sure that the concerns were valid. Is there a reason for concern in terms of teaching and learning or no? I think anytime a parent or student complains, the principal has to look into the reasons for the complaint. And then finally, I would see what kind of changes needed to take place in her room so that I could help her be the best teacher and then also promote the academic success of all students. Then I would work on just supporting her constantly and consistently. So according to the case study, Dr. Forbes has maintained on this reputation as principal of the most prestigious school in the state. So he probably has a lot of parent pressure. So regardless of this, it's clear that she needs support beyond discussing techniques. So again, I would put that plan in place. I would do the regular observations and the regular walkthroughs. I would assign her a peer mentor. And again, I would make sure that she understood I was here for her. I feel like with the student Randy Franks, I would use that to help her see that I would support her. I would pull them in. I hear you've been doing this in her class. How can we resolve this? What's going on? So that they both understand that I am supporting the teacher in this teaching and learning endeavor. So, debriefing. With my case study, I think I was really thinking, feeling, and valuing my role as a teacher and what I would want my administrator to do. I have very supportive administrators, and I kind of walked through some situations that I thought maybe they would handle in some certain kind of similar ways. I felt bad for Ms. Walker because I felt like she didn't feel supported or valued, and so I wanted to address it from that issue. There's a great chance that Dr. Forbes never knew about the issue with Randy Franks because she maybe didn't feel comfortable sharing it. I talk to my administrator on a regular basis about situations that arise, and I think one thing that I always take away is this, that if you have low expectations of a teacher, they will perform low. They might not do anything wrong, but they're not going to go out of their way to do anything right. And if you have high expectations and you work with them to make them feel supported and show them that you support them and believe in their endeavors, then they will buy in. And when they buy in, they're going to live up to that mission and vision you set for your school. With teacher support and staff culture in mind, I was thinking about how I could best support her because, again, once she buys into my mission, academic success of all students is promoted. Issues that are still unresolved for me. I wonder if she had a mentor in place and what their school mentor policy is. Everybody needs support as a beginning teacher. What is in their district AUP? Did Ms. Walker and Dr. Forbes have a positive relationship, or was he just kind of ignoring a festering issue? And then finally, if he was more proactive in this situation, if he had supported teaching and learning in the classroom from the beginning, could the entire website issue have been avoided? So reflection on Standard 2 basically boils down to promote the academic success of every student, I began with addressing the immediate issue so that she would feel safe and valued. And then I would do that honest investigation of the website situation so that she understood that that's where I was at in supporting her. And then I would put necessary supports and plans in place to make sure she was making progress as a teacher. How would I make sure people were treated fairly, equitably, and with dignity and respect? I would have taken her concerns more seriously from the beginning. I would have adhered to my professional norms by conducting that investigation, and then also working out that plan with her. And professional code of ethics, basically I listen to and I support her from the beginning. And I would always let parents know that I'm with her, and then I would kind of address the situation from behind the scenes from that point on. That's all I've got. Thanks.